7,000 miles from San Francisco, there lies a primeval desert, a mass of drifting sand and sun-baked earth, one-third the size of the United States.
Humanity had experienced a world war, and this war was the first to be fought with modern machines. The most important thing for these machines to operate was oil. In other words, oil would determine the power of the future. At that exact time, the rising superpower, the United States, was well aware of this. In the 1930s, the US had no significant presence in the Middle East. The region was still under the influence of European empires. However, there were strong indications that oil might exist in these lands. That's why a California-based oil company set its sights on one of the harshest regions on Earth, the endless desert of the Arabian Peninsula. For investors, this was almost a gamble. No one knew whether there was oil beneficence. If no one was found, the company executives would have literally buried thousands of shareholders' money in the desert, and the risk wasn't only financial. These lands were controlled by a newly established, strict religious monarchy, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
7,000 miles from San Francisco, there lies a primeval desert, a mass of drifting sand and sun-baked earth, one-third the size of the United States.
With Mecca and Medina located there, two of the most important cities in Islam, the kingdom held not only political power, but also religious centrality. For this reason, the country was cautious toward the outside world, especially Western foreigners. At the time, many Saudis viewed America as a great shaitan. So the idea of American engineers and geologists working on these lands was highly unusual, but money can open almost any door. Eventually, the Saudi king granted a massive concession to the American company. They were given the right to explore for oil across nearly 1 million square kilometers. Although this decision faced a major backlash, it marked the beginning of a process that will reshape the entire region. On March 3, 1938, American engineers finally discovered oil. Soon after, dozens of American companies flocked to Arabian deserts. American engineers and workers arrived in the region with their families. Small settlements quickly formed around faculties built in the desert. The settlements resembled American towns in the heart of Saudi Arabia. Alcohol consumption, open-air cinemas, and women driving cars, all of which were forbidden in Saudi Arabia. For many Saudis, this was disturbing the American had created a cultural island of their own. Despite the tension, oil kept flowing. After a while, the US government approached the Saudi royal family.
But don't think that decision to recognize Israel was an easy one. I had to make a compromise with the Arabs and divide Palestine.
They proposed building a small military faculty to protect the oil fields. They claimed it would ensure safety for both Saudis and Americans. For the Saudi leadership, this was a sensitive issue. Allowing oil exploration was one thing, but a military presence was another. The royal family was torn. On one side were religious sensitivities and public opinion. On the other, immense oil wealth. They accepted the offer. But with one symbolic condition: the American flag would not to be planted on Saudi soil. Instead, only a small plaque could be placed on a building. Soon after, the United States established its first military presence in the Middle East. The infrastructure, oil cities, airstrips needed to be built. Major Saudi construction company took the lead, founded by a man named Muhammad. He built much of the infrastructure and became incredibly wealthy. He married 22 women and had 54 children, but no one knew yet that this family would later play a role in one of the most dramatic events in Middle Eastern history. By the 1950s, the world was divided into two blocks: the United States and the Soviet Union. The Soviets opposed American influence in the Middle East and began expanding their presence. One of the most dramatic examples took place in Iran. Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh pursued independent policies. These alarmed the US and Britain. Eventually, a coup supported by the CIA and British intelligence removed him from power. He was replaced by Sheikh Mohammed Reza Pahlavi. Another major turning point: the establishment of Israel. When Israel was declared, Arab countries rejected it, leading to war. Oil became geopolitical weapon during the 1973 Arab-Israeli War. Production was reduced and embargoes were imposed. Gas lines formed in the West. The world realized the Middle East politics could directly impact global economies. By the 1970s, Mohammed bin Laden had built a dynasty. One of his sons, Osama bin Laden. Osama was deeply troubled by foreign influence in the region. He believed foreign powers should not control Islamic lands. In 1979, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. Osama went there to fight. The US supported Afghan resistance to weaken the Soviets. Meanwhile, in Iran, the Shah was overthrown and replaced by Ayatollah Khomeini. Soon after, Iraq under Saddam Hussein invaded Iran in 1980. A devastating 8-year war followed. After Afghanistan, Osama built a new network that would become Al-Qaeda. In 1990, Iraq invaded Kuwait. This shocked region. The US formed a coalition of countries. Iraq was pushed out of Kuwait, but US forces remained in Saudi Arabia. This engaged Osama deeply. The breaking point came on September 11, 2001. Hijacked planes hit the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. 1,000 dies. The 1,000 died for the United States. This was a declaration of war. What began as an oil surge in the Arabian Desert had evolved into massive global conflict, and this story is still not over.